Hello, and welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're stepping into a moment in American history that shaped a young nation's identity, not through revolution, but through resilience. It's a story of pride, miscalculation, courage, and ultimately, unity. This is the story of the War of 1812, a conflict often overshadowed by the revolution before it and the Civil War that followed, yet one that echoes deeply in the soul of the United States. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's journey together through the years 1812 to 1815. In the early 19th century, the United States was still a fledgling republic, barely 30 years old, stretching from the Atlantic coast to the Mississippi River, with a population of just over 7 million. To the north, British Canada loomed. To the west, Native American nations fiercely defended their ancestral lands. Across the Atlantic, Europe was engulfed in the Napoleonic Wars, and America, though neutral, found itself caught in the crossfire. British warships routinely stopped American vessels on the high seas, claiming the right to search for deserters from the Royal Navy. In the process, they often seized American sailors, impressing them into service against their will. Between 1803 and 1812, over 6,000 U.S. citizens were taken. Meanwhile, Britain imposed trade restrictions that crippled American merchants, and many Americans believed the British were secretly arming native tribes resisting American expansion in the Northwest Territory, modern-day Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan. Tensions simmered, and in Washington, a new generation of leaders, known as the Warhawks, rose to power. Young congressmen like Henry Clay of Kentucky and John C. Calhoun of South Carolina argued passionately that the only way to defend American honor and secure the frontier was through war. President James Madison, though cautious by nature, eventually agreed. On June 18, 1812, he signed a declaration of war against Great Britain, the first time the U.S. had ever declared war on another nation. The war began, not with a bang, but with a fumble. American forces, poorly trained and under-equipped, launched an invasion of Canada in July 1812, expecting a warm welcome from French Canadians and others supposedly eager to throw off British rule. Instead, they met stiff resistance. General William Howe crossed into Canada from Detroit but quickly retreated after rumors of approaching British troops and native warriors, led by the brilliant Shawnee leader, Tecumseh, humiliated. Hull surrendered Detroit without firing a shot, an early blow to American morale. But elsewhere, the young U.S. Navy surprised the world. Though vastly outnumbered, American frigates like the USS Constitution, nicknamed Old Ironsides, after cannonballs bounced off its thick oak hull, won dramatic victories at sea. These naval triumphs became symbols of national pride and proved that the United States could stand toe-to-toe with the greatest navy on earth. On land, the war dragged on inconclusively through 1813. In April, American forces burned York, now Toronto, the capital of Upper Canada, symbolic act that would later be repaid in kind. Later that year, General William Henry Harrison defeated Tecumseh's Confederacy at the Battle of the Thames in Ontario. Tecumseh was killed, and with him, the dream of a unified Native American resistance east of the Mississippi largely collapsed. Yet the war's most defining moments were still ahead. By 1814, Napoleon had been defeated in Europe, freeing up thousands of seasoned British troops to be sent across the Atlantic. The British shifted strategy. Instead of defending Canada, they launched punishing raids along the American coast. In August 1814, a British expeditionary force sailed up the Chesapeake Bay and marched toward Washington. D.C. President Madison and his government barely escaped as British troops entered the capital. That night, August 24, 1814, the British set fire to public buildings, including the White House and the Capitol. First Lady Dolly Madison famously saved a portrait of George Washington before fleeing. The city smoldered, and for many Americans, it felt like the Republic itself was burning. But the British advance didn't stop there. They turned their sights on Baltimore, a key port city. In September, they bombarded Fort McHenry for 25 hours straight. An American lawyer named Francis Scott Key, detained aboard a British ship during the attack, watched anxiously through the night. When dawn broke and he saw the American flag still flying over the fort, he was moved to write a poem that would become the Star-Spangled Banner, later the national anthem of the United States. Meanwhile, far to the south, another drama unfolded. In New Orleans, General Andrew Jackson, a fierce, unorthodox commander, began assembling a ragtag army: regular soldiers, free black militiamen, Choctaw warriors, pirates led by Jean Lafette, and local volunteers. Word arrived that a massive British force was sailing to capture the city, which controlled access to the Mississippi River. On January 8, 1815, the two sides clashed in what would become the war's most famous battle. The British, confident and well-trained, advanced in tight formation across open ground. Jackson's men, hidden behind earthworks, unleashed devastating fire. In less than 30 minutes, over 2,000 British soldiers were killed or wounded, compared to just dozens on the American side. It was a stunning, lopsided victory. But here's the twist. The battle never should have happened. Unbeknownst to both armies, peace had already been signed. On December 24, 1814, American and British diplomats in Ghent, Belgium, had finalized the Treaty of Ghent, ending the war and restoring all conquered territories to their pre-war status. No land changed hands. No reparations were paid. The issues that sparked the war, impressment, trade restrictions, were left unresolved, though they soon became moot as the Napoleonic Wars ended. News traveled slowly in those days. The Battle of New Orleans was fought 2 weeks after peace was declared, yet its impact was profound. Jackson became a national hero, paving his path to the presidency. Americans, who had endured the humiliation of a burned capital, now celebrated a decisive victory. The war may have ended in a draw on paper, but in the hearts of the people, it felt like a triumph. The War of 1812 left a complicated legacy. For Native Americans, it was catastrophic. With Tecumseh gone and British support withdrawn, tribes lost critical leverage against American expansion. The door swung wide open for westward settlement and displacement for the United States. However, the war forged a new sense of unity. Political divisions between Federalists, who had opposed the war, and Democratic Republicans faded. Manufacturing grew as imports dwindled. Nationalism surged. The period that followed became known as the Era of Good Feelings, a time of optimism and shared identity. And perhaps most enduringly, the war gave America two of its most iconic symbols: the Star-Spangled Banner and the resilient image of the White House rebuilt, repainted white to cover the smoke stains and standing tall as a beacon of endurance. So while the War of 1812 may not have redrawn maps or toppled empires, it did something equally important. It helped a young nation believe in itself. It proved that the United States, flawed, divided, and inexperienced, could survive a second war against the world's greatest power and emerge not just intact, but more united than before. Thank you so much for watching. If this story stirred something in you felt the tension of those uncertain years or the pride in that dawn's early light, please consider liking this video, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who loves history as much as you do. Every click helps this channel grow and keeps these stories alive. Until next time, remember, history isn't just about dates and battles. It's about people like you and me trying to build something that lasts. Stay curious, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next story.